What is going on, everybody? It's me, Roku, here to help you spread some democracy in Helldivers 2 by giving you a guide video. In this one, I'm going to go through every single stratagem in the game and talk about their effectiveness in terms of when you should be taking them, what kind of missions, what kind of situations they're good in, and also which ones that you shouldn't take, because a lot of stratagems, and I'd say most of them, they're not straight up bad, but they're either so niche in their use they're going to use them perfectly once every like 3-4 missions, or the thing that they do specialize in is done by something else way better, and that something else is just a more generally useful stratagem they're going to use way more often. Now, a few things of note. One, I haven't unlocked every single stratagem, I know, but that's mostly because I don't like to unlock things that I'm not going to use that I know are ineffective. Number two, I'm not going to go too in-depth into the support weapons because those deserve a video of their own, in my opinion. So I'm going to basically gloss over them quickly and just tell you the do's and don'ts about them. Lastly, the format of the video. I was really tempted to do a tier list, but I feel like a tier list isn't too specific enough because, say, the anti-materiel rifle, right? This thing is not that good in bug missions because of the nature of the missions. You're getting swarmed, you don't have time to sit around and just pick your shots. But in the automaton missions, it is a very solid choice because the automatons are more about quality than quantity. They have more power per unit. And a lot of these units have very specific weak spots that you can just sit down and target with this weapon while you're in cover. So, like, people will put the anti-material at like C tier or B tier, but that B tier is not going to explain this specific fact, which is what I want to do by covering everything as in-depth as possible, except for the support weapons. I just said that. Anyway, let's get through all the weapons first, and then I'll go through things category by category. First off, the machine gun. The machine gun is the strategy weapon that you start out with, and it is honestly pretty solid. It kind of blitzes through most of the lower level enemies in the game, and I'd say it's pretty good up until like challenging, when it really isn't that useful against some of the more tough opponents. Now, the purpose of this weapon is to lay down suppressive fire, kill entire crowds of people, or bugs rather, and it is amazing at that. But the thing about it is that it's immobile, in that you have to sit down and actually go through the long reload animation, and it only comes with 3 magazines from the start. This doesn't sound like that much of a weakness, but if you are in like a, oh no, I'm getting swarmed by everyone, I have to just reload and fire at them kind of situation, this weapon is not going to cut it, because you're going to run through that magazine pretty quickly, and once you're done with it, you're just there with just your primary, and hopefully a teammate can save you at that point. Not to mention how the accuracy of it while moving is really bad, meaning that you really are just going to be wasting a lot of your bullets. So I'd say it's good for the beginning, but it kind of gets invalidated by the Stalwart. Now, the Stalwart is the machine gun, but better at what the machine gun does, which is suppressive fire and just clearing crowds out. It comes with more ammo, it comes with an additional magazine, and you can move while reloading it, and it's better accuracy while moving. So it's a very good weapon for just crowd control, right? It lets you just mow down crowds of bugs or whatever that are coming at you to put you down. Now, I wouldn't recommend it in automaton missions, because in automaton missions, spam fire isn't going to do you much good. What's going to do you better is like controlled targeted fire, which is what this weapon does not do. But if you're playing bugs, it is a really solid option at the beginning. Now, I wouldn't recommend the entire party going this. Just one person is enough so they can like clear the enemies out when they're trying to get to your squad, but you know, it's a great choice. The anti-materiel rifle, as I mentioned, is a terrible choice for a bug mission, but honestly, for the automatons, until you get to your really big armor pierces, it is basically your main choice, because again, this thing is going to let you sit back at the range with the automatons fight in, and actually just pick people off, pick robots off one by one, and 3-4 shot some of your big, beefy targets, which otherwise would be kind of unkillable with like a machine gun or a Stalwart, because you can't really aim for the big glowy head, can you? The Expendable anti-tank. Now, I personally am not too big of a fan of this, but I can see the utility. This is essentially your emergency armor-piercing explosive weapon if you're, like, you know, playing on lower difficulties and are just generally lower level. How you use it is that normally you're going to be going with a Stalwart or another support weapon, and if you do see that once in a blue moon high-armored, high-value target, then you call this down, use it, kill that one target, and then just go back to using your main support weapon. It's kind of like a supportive, oh no, I don't have anything to answer this charger, whatever kind of weapon, right? But for the charger, make sure you know where you're shooting it, because it doesn't take damage from all sides, right? You got to shoot at the side with explosives, at like its legs with some of your armor piercing ones, but we'll get to that later. The Recoilles Rifle is essentially the expendable anti-tank, but it's reloadable. It's got a lot of rockets with a backpack, and if someone's just standing next to you and reloading it, it is an absolute powerhouse. You can get a lot of work done with this weapon, and especially if you have someone reloading, you can just clear out an entire area of heavies or whatever you need to clear out. Now, I think the full potential of this weapon has to have someone reloading it for you, because if you have to reload it by yourself, you have to sit down and reload it for a while like the machine gun, and that is a weakness. If you're getting swarmed, you don't have time to just sit down and make tea. You gotta fire, move, reload, fire, move, reload. And if you're getting swarmed by a lot of big targets, this thing won't cut it unless you have someone helping you. Flamethrower. Also, I think it's relatively good into bots too. All explosive weapons are good against bots, so I'm just putting that out there. The Flamethrower. This is, I think, the worst support weapon in the entire game, because, okay, so first off, automatons are kind of impervious to this, because not only does it do less damage to them because they're like heat proof, it also is like a close range weapon, and automatons shoot you from afar. And the bugs themselves, it's not good, because when you put a bug on fire, it carries the fire with it. So if you, like, let's say the weapon, okay, so the enemy that the Flamethrower is really good at killing is the charger, right? Because it goes through armor. That's the good part about it. Let's say you put the charger and just, you walk him forever and you just set him on fire. If he reaches you and any part of him grazes you, now you're on fire. And fire does a lot of damage to you. So you're going to die pretty quickly unless you just spam that stim and make sure you're healing ASAP. And that might not always be possible, because if the charger knocks you aside, you're going to be flying in the air on fire and you'll die before you hit the ground, okay? This thing can be a detriment a lot of the time. So I heavily don't recommend you use this unless you really want to, because it's cool to flamethrower a bunch of bugs. The Autocannon is an absolute powerhouse, okay? First off, although it's good to have someone reloading it for you, you don't really need that. You do need to sit down to reload it, but the thing is, the reload animation is relatively quick, and a great part is that you're not dumping any ammo by reloading it early. The way you reload it is that you reload clips instead of magazines. So if you just have half of the capacity down, and you press R, your character will just load 5 more rounds, and the rounds that are still in the mag will stay there, okay? And the thing I recommend with this weapon is that as long as you have ammo, you kind of want to make sure that you never reach the last bullet of this, because the action of racking the slide back can take a while, right? But just slotting the ammo in is pretty quick. So what you want to do is basically just shoot the 5 rounds, slot in another 5, shoot the 5 rounds, and just get stuff done that way. This thing can kill basically anything. It does a ton of damage, and if you have someone reloading it for you, you will clear house and destroy everything in your path. It is amazing. It's got really high range. So if you see like a radio tower you got to destroy, you can just snipe it with one shot, or like a spore tower, or even a bug nest. You can do it if it's like an important, or like a stalker nest. You want to walk all the way over there, and maybe walking there will mean that a stalker will spawn and get in your way. So it's a very versatile, amazing weapon, and I'd say it's roughly the second or the third best stratagem weapon. But it depends on the situation, right? It's also amazing against the automatons. There's that too. The Railgun. This thing is the best support weapon by a mile. By a mile. Because this thing fundamentally counters every single enemy in the game aside from just one. Okay? And I do mean counters. Not you can kill them with this. It counters them. In that if you shoot the right spot, you will either one-shot them or two-shot them. It's that powerful, and I do mean every single enemy in the game. It destroys every single bug, and I'd say aside from the automaton and like the artillery and the mountain turrets, I mean, by the automaton, I mean the automaton turret, like the tank, I mean, right? Aside from the automaton tank, the turret, and the artillery, it one-shots or almost one-shots basically everything else. This thing will straight up one-tap hulks, and it's not even a joke. And all this isn't even considering the unsafe mode, which does a lot more damage, okay? Now, the unsafe mode can be a bit annoying to use because if you're not in a chaotic position, it's whatever, right? You can obviously control it and just let go of the mouse before it reaches the top explodey part. But if you're in a chaotic situation, you might just hold the mouse for too long and get destroyed. So my recommendation is go on to a trivial mission, get the railgun, and just get used to the timing of the charge so that you get it in your body to just, okay, when it reaches this point, I have to let go or I die. And that point is, basically speaking, at the top of the bar. There is one more line before the bar reaches maximum. That's where you want to just let go of your trigger and just have it shoot ASAP. Because sometimes it will kind of not register properly in that you will release it and it will still charge and explode. So it's better safe than sorry. And it has happened to me multiple times, right? But aside from that, the railgun owns everything. And I would be really happy to do a full support weapon video so I could talk more about this amazing gun. The spear. This thing has one purpose: to kill tanks in automaton missions. Now, if you're going for a really high difficulty automaton mission, one of you has to have this on hand, because the thing about tanks is that in isolation, they're not that dangerous because you can just run around them, get close and destroy the back. But if they have a lot of bots around you, then you can't get close, which means that you're now in the optimal range that the tank can just blast you and one-shot you. This is why the spear is so useful, because the spear can allow one guy to just be on permanent tank killing duty, okay? Now, the bad part about the spear is that it is like a one trick, in that it can't kill anything else that effectively. If you're killing like a Hulk or something, it's a bit of a waste. And also, I know for a fact that it just straight up won't target smaller targets. It just won't like aimbot on them. So I'd say, again, if you're on a really high difficulty mission, extreme suicide mission, someone has to have this. But if not, if you're on a lower mission, if the tanks spawn less frequently, then you can afford to not have one of these guys on your team. Now, let's get into the other support weapons from the other categories. Yes, the grenade launcher. This thing, up until the challenging difficulty, is going to be your main weapon. First off, it is an insane crowd clearer. It will one-shot a lot of the lower level enemies, and with half a magazine, you can clear out an entire crowd, okay? If you get used to the arc of it too, the range can be pretty insane. But the really good thing about the grenade launcher is its utility, in that it can destroy every single objective that needs to be destroyed, aside from the really big ones that need the hell bomb, right? This means that if you're playing solo, you can have the grenade launcher and have enough grenades to just destroy these bug nests, because you know that, like, if you're solo, the first annoying thing that you run into is that you're just standing there at a bug nest, waiting for a resupply, because you don't have the grenades to just destroy all the nests. This thing takes care of that by giving you 10 grenades to just lob at the nests one by one. And if you get used to the arc, you can do it from a very long range before they have time to spawn. You can destroy spores with this thing, radio towers, all from nice, safe distances. It is really nice, and if you're running solo a lot, you really have to get this. Now, if you're playing with other people, it can get risky, because the thing that the grenade launcher sucks at is killing armored targets, because not because it doesn't do damage to them, but if you shoot at an armored part, the grenade will just bounce off that armor and hit somewhere else, and that somewhere else can be your teammates. So if you're playing with a team, really try your best to check your fire, and if you can't shoot the juicy parts of an armored target, don't aim for them, aim near them, so that the grenade will explode and they'll take the splash damage. The laser cannon. This thing is the second worst support weapon. It's just not that good. Like, honestly speaking, damage-wise, it's like, okay, but it kills things way too slowly. Why would you have this instead of a rail cannon that has the same-ish range, that can one-shot each of these targets, and faster? Okay, because the rail cannon, all you need is shoot, reload, shoot, whereas with this, you're just beaming. Like in this clip, if that guy is fighting those bugs, and is just using this without moving, those bugs will reach him and just straight up demolish him, okay? The laser cannon is just not worth it, aside from the cool factor. And in extreme hot like planets, it is just worthless, dog. The arc thrower, the final support weapon that we're going to talk about. This thing is really cool. Like, I just love seeing it in action. I love people using it. But unfortunately, it suffers from this one problem, and that is consistency, okay? The arc thrower can randomly kill half a pack, or it can randomly just kill one small alien, and you're just stuck standing there waiting for the shot to come back up, okay? It's so inconsistent that, like I wouldn't recommend this to anyone to use, because there are just more consistent options, okay? There are better options that are more reliable, and it's just, like, it's not reliable enough, right? And the reliability, I want to make a point, is so important in this game, because the thing about Helldivers 2 is that when a situation gets chaotic, you need reliability. Because if the bugs are swarming you, or the automatons are from every single direction, if your weapon doesn't do what you think it's going to do, then you're going to get killed. Because you need a specific grenade, a specific orbital, a specific weapon to do just what it needs to do to get you out of that situation alive. That's why I would recommend the other support weapons over this one. Alright, that is the support weapons, then let's get into the orbital cannons. The orbital cannons are essentially just like attacks that you can call from the sky, and they can range from being some of the most powerful in the game to being really underwhelming. First off, the Gatling Barrage it's not too great in my opinion because of just how random it is. Sometimes it'll get a bunch of kills, but a lot of times it won't, okay? What I recommend is, instead of the Gatling Barrage, just get the Airburst Strike, because it's the exact same thing, but just better, okay? This thing is straight up better than the Gatling Barrage, because, again, it's like the whole thing with consistency and inconsistency that I talked about with the arc thrower, but just on an orbital, right? You don't want to leave things to chance. This Airburst Strike is pretty good at the lower levels. The 120mm highly explosive barrage is relatively good, but again, because it's random, it's not as good. It can clear out the characters that you wanted to clear out, or it can do nothing, okay? It's why I don't like it too much, but the 380mm is decent because the explosives are just straight up bigger, so the likelihood that it hits huge targets is just much larger. So you can get a lot of work, you can get a lot more work done with this as opposed to the 120mm, and like the cooldown is the same, so I just get this one, all right? The walking barrage has a very specific purpose. It essentially is there to clear out a group of enemies to allow you to advance, but the problem is it's such a specific purpose because you're never going to be advancing into your enemy in this game. What you're doing is you're walking up, you're attracting aggro, and you're running back or standing in cover while, you know, you're trying to kill the enemy before they reach you, okay? That's the general playstyle of Helldivers 2, and the walking barrage doesn't really align with it that much. So unless you're just being chased by enemies for a while so they just form up in a nice, neat line, I don't think this is too useful. The Orbital Laser is a godsend, and this is just, someone has to take this, okay? And 2 people, 3 people, even better. Because it has limited uses, you're really going to have to savor every single one of these uses, and on hard missions, this thing is a must. It will destroy charges, it will solo kill Bile Titans, and it will go around killing the other targets after it's done with that one huge target. It is amazing, okay? And a thing that it gives you, which none of the orbital cannons have given you so far, is breathing room. Because if things go wrong and you're going swarmed, the orbital laser will save you because it's going to go in a line, killing everything in its path, allowing you to reload, allowing you to get your health together, allowing you to just get your support weapons, ammo, whatever you need. It gives you everything that you need in that situation, and it is, in my opinion, like a mandatory stratagem on even like anything higher than hard, including hard. You gotta take this, okay? Or at least some people need to take this, because sometimes maybe you guys don't have a Railcannon, maybe you guys don't have your support weapons, maybe that Bile Titan just randomly aggroed on someone and now they're just being chased, okay? You can't know what's gonna happen in a mission, and you might need this, and if you don't have it, your life is gonna get much, much harder. The Orbital Railcannon Strike. This thing is really nice because it automatically aims at the strongest target. It one-shots chargers, it one-shots most things in the automaton mode. It is really, really great. I think that it's kind of a preference thing whether you want this or the laser, because the laser is kind of like a weapon of its own, but the Railcannon Strike is like a supportive weapon in that, let's say you're getting overwhelmed by a bunch of massive targets, you toss this, you take one of them out, which leads you to have less enemies to take care of. Now, the bad-ish part about this is that on the higher difficulties, you get multiple huge targets to deal with, okay? So it's not going to be enough on its own. Whereas with the Orbital Laser, after it's done with one target, it'll just go on to the next and at least get some damage out to make that other big tank easier to kill. This will not. It's a preference thing, but I think the Orbital Laser is far better than the Railcannon Strike. But it's still pretty good. It's like the second best in the entire Orbital Cannon category. Now we have the Eagles. Now, as you can see from me not having most of the Eagles, I am not really an Eagle person because I like big explosions, and Eagles are generally less bang for your buck, but you get more of them, right? That's the trade-off. It's less power, but you get to use them more frequently. The Eagle Strafing Run just sucks. It's just a Gatling Barrage, but it covers an even smaller area. Don't go for this. The Eagle Airstrike, on the other hand, is really nice. Unlike the Orbital Airburst Strike, the Orbital Explosive Barrage, you can kind of predict how the Airstrike is gonna toss its explosives. And the thing is, because the explosives are so tightly packed together, it will mostly just kill everything in the area. Now, it's great in bug nests. It's great when there's like a pit that enemies are grouped up in. It's not gonna kill the nests itself. Mind you, it just usually doesn't, but it's still basically your go-to Eagle at the earlier levels. The Cluster Bomb is the Airstrike, but there's less, it's just normal, weak autocannon shots instead of explosives, right? It's going to affect a much lower area. Now, it will take out armored targets, or not take them out, do damage to them if it hits them, but that's kind of an if, isn't it? And also, I've seen this thing hit like a Charger twice or so and not even kill him, and we still have to just bother putting him down without even when we didn't have our armored weapons, armor piercing weapons. So I haven't had too many good experiences with the Cluster Bomb or someone else who had the Cluster Bomb. I just think that the Airstrike is better. If you have an armor piercing weapon, like an autocannon and then the Airstrike, or the grenade launcher Airstrike, whatever, then you're good to go. The Napalm Airstrike. This thing sucks for some of the same reasons that the Flamethrower sucks. The fire doesn't kill all the bugs automatically or instantly. It just kind of sets them on fire. Duh. But wouldn't you want bugs that are just dead instead of bugs that are still alive who can jump on you and spread their fire? Right? Who are going to die soon anyway. It's just, it does more than the Airstrike, but fire in this game kind of just sucks. It's random, it's inconsistent, and it can kill you way faster than it kills any bug, so just stay away from this. The jump pack, man, look, I personally love the jump pack. I love making space, I love getting away, I love being chased and jumping over obstacles, parkouring, all that, but the backpacks in this game are crazy useful. Some of them are so vital that you can't survive without them, and compared to the other backpacks, the jump pack is just not as useful. It's not bad, it's not as good as the other ones. It's one of the ones that gets invalidated. The Smoke Strike it's not that useful because anyone who's played this game on challenging or higher will tell you you never get swarmed from just one side. So the break you get from just that one side is usually not enough. And in situations where it is enough, you're better off just killing them one by one anyway, right? So I'm not a fan of this. It's just not it's not good enough, right, for what it is. So yeah, not a fan. The Eagle 110mm rocket pods. Now, like the Railcannon Strike, it is kind of aimbody in that it will go for the higher priority targets, but this thing does less damage than the Railcannon Strike. While the Railcannon will just kill the Charger, this thing will blow up a side of it so you can finish it off. But, when you use the stratagems, you just want the thing that's bothering you or causing you problems to just die. This won't do the job, which is why I think it kind of just gets invalidated by the Orbital Cannon, the Railcannon Strike. the Eagle 500 kilogram bomb. This thing is one of the most fun stratagems to use, but okay, don't crucify me here. Okay, do not crucify me. I don't think it's that consistent. The thing is, okay, so when the bomb drops, whoever's in the middle area will just get one shot. But that middle area is smaller than it looks. So let's say that a Bile Titan is just like charging at you. If you toss it, and the Bile Titan isn't exactly in the middle, in that it maybe runs back, runs towards someone, whatever, it won't die. Okay? And also, if you look at this, it's a perfect example. None of those nests are actually destroyed by this thing. So they just gave the perfect example of it having a limited area. Okay? You can only use it once. It's just, like, just use the laser, right? The laser's just way too good. It's more consistent. It's aimbot. You don't have to awkwardly aim it. You have to just go for, like, a, you know, self-sacrificing heroic moment to take the Bile Titan out so that, like, you can toss it on yourself and the Bile Titan will just get on top of you. It's like, you don't need that, right? Just go for the more consistent thing. But it is, admittedly, way more manly. I will give you points for that. The Orbital Precision Strike. Now, this is one of the first ones you get, and I highly recommend that you use it often in your early level games, just to get an idea as to how to use the orbitals, eagles, or whatever that don't target themselves. Okay, so it's a great practice tool, and it does do pretty decent amount of damage. I find it more useful in the automaton missions myself, because the big targets in those missions kind of just like are slow, so you can more easily land it on them, but it is quite useful against bugs too, sort of. I just don't use it there that much. The Orbital Gas Strike is just, it's just the fire, but better in that, like, the gas is better than napalm, right? Because these bugs can't spread the gas, and in my experience, the gas kills them way faster than the fire. It just does more damage, I think, and it can be good at closing areas off. But the thing about this game is that you're very rarely just locking down and protecting an area. You're always on the move. And the missions where you're sitting down and blocking off an area, you might as well just get another stratagem and kill those enemies with an explosive or something. It's like, if there's a lot of clustered units, then it's kind of good. But again, because you're getting attacked from multiple sides, it is limited in its usefulness. Although, I will say, once you do get that sweet spot kind of gas striking, it will just wipe out everything that's inside the area. The Orbital EMS Strike is, it's nice, but I wouldn't say it's that good against bugs specifically. So, against the bugs, while it does stun them and it gives you time to shoot them and kill them, how do I put this? The weak spots of the bugs don't really get any easier to hit when they're not moving, because the weak spots are so huge, right? Like, very rarely with bugs, the weak spots are like so tiny that you can't aim at them. If you have like even semi-competent aim, you will shoot those weak spots regardless of if the bugs are moving or not. And because you're going to be getting flanked and stuff, and it will only cover one area, and if you use this wrongly, you can mess your team up, because it will slow any player that gets into the area to a crawl, right? You can't get up close and personal with this thing. Now against the bots, I really like it, because the bots have clear shiny weaknesses, and them standing still can make the difference, because it gives you time to just relax and just get all your precision shots off to destroy the bots when you have time. And there are more EMS things that do this, but to a whole another level that I'll get to soon. As we talked about the Eagle Smoke Strike, the Orbital Smoke Strike is also not that useful. The Heavy Machine Gun Emplacement is really good at one specific thing, which is holding down big areas. But first off, against automatons, you don't want to do this. It makes you such a target. And if you get hit by a rocket or something, it's over. It's good against bugs in terms of killing, but bug missions are just more mobile in nature, so you more rarely get into situations where you might need this, right? Even in like the kill the automatons to thin their numbers missions, you're just better off taking a bunch of turrets and just having them do this while you cover the turrets. So it's great at what it does, just it doesn't flow with the mission. It doesn't flow with the type of playstyle you need to adopt to succeed in missions. The shield generator relay is such a lifesaver in many occasions, but it desperately needs buffs. I feel like it doesn't last that long if you're under heavy fire, especially. So, I don't know. I feel like if one person has this, they can toss it down and buy some time for you guys to breathe in automaton missions. No bug missions. It does not work against bugs at all because they're all melee, right? But in automaton missions, it can be really powerful if someone has it. The Tesla Tower. This thing is so funny because it just mows down everything that comes close, including you and your teammates. The range of this is so messed up. I have no idea what the range actually is because it's like... So, normally, let's say a machine gun turret, if it hits you slightly, you get a bit of damage as a warning to just, hey, get out of its way, right? A lot of damage in the game is like this, in that once you just get within the outer ranges of the damage, you won't take as much damage. Okay, if you get into the outer range of an explosive, it will just knock you around, but it won't just kill you instantly. This thing will kill you instantly as soon as you walk into this range, and it will kill your teammates as well. So, while it can be useful in mowing down a certain group of enemies, bugs specifically, not so much automatons because they're ranged, it can also mean that your team can no longer go into that Tesla's influence. So if you toss this down in like a bug nest, you can't get into that bug nest anymore because you're all just going to die if you do, right? So it's like, it's a stratagem that can very easily just ruin your team's flow and just stop you from completing an objective that you need to complete if used wrongly, okay? You gotta be careful when you're using this. Now, it can be really powerful, but if you're not careful, you'll be hated by your teammates. The Engineering Bay. So the minefields are... I'm not too big of a fan of them. Also, it does cancel out areas from your team, yada, yada, yada. Not too big of the minefields, right? I'm not... Okay, so for the bug missions... Locking down areas is not a good idea because if the situation gets bad enough, you might have to walk through that area. And having an area that you just shouldn't walk through is like having a wall there that you're just pinned up against potentially. So I wouldn't recommend it. And also, the explosives don't do crazy damage, right? And let's say that a bunch of like low life, small bugs are walking in front of the imported ones, they'll just proc all the mines so that the big bugs don't really take that much damage or as much damage. The supply pack is crazy useful. This thing, first off, is amazing when you're soloing because it gives you a supply of syringes to use. It gives you an ammo supply if you're using like an ammo-hungry support weapon like the grenade launcher. If you're solo, you're going to be using the Railcannon a lot, so that too. It's my preferred choice. I always take the supply pack because I run out of ammo a lot. And someone on the team having this is really useful because ammo is kind of important in this game. You don't want to be running around scavenging for ammos off of places of interest because you might need that ammo at that moment that your teammate can give you with a supply pack. And the underrated part about the supply pack is that it's essentially double the resupply. Because the summoning of supply pack ticks down differently than the resupply. So what you can do is summon this, right? When you need a refill for your team, they can summon the resupply pack, like the official resupply, and then you can get this later to get an additional resupply on top of that one, which is now on cooldown. So it's really useful, but I find that sometimes, right, you might just run into situations where you don't even need it, right? Like, if you're more careful about your shots, if you're not exactly the gunner of your team, or if your team doesn't have big ammo chewing through weapons, then you might get into situations where it's not really necessary, but I'd say it's good enough to always be needed, because you never know what you're going to need, because you might need a grenade at some point, you might need a needle, you might need explosives, whatever, right? And it will just, this thing's got your back, bro. The Guard Dog Rover. This is the best guard dog. It never overheats, right? I've been using this thing until I got the whole... So the way I played is I played until like level 12, 14 or so, after which point I just stuck to grenade launcher and supply pack to just solo grind through missions. And until that point, and even after for a while, and I use this thing on every single kill determinants or whatever mission, this thing was my go-to. And I've never seen it overheat. Not on me, not on my teammates. It just doesn't overheat. This thing will just protect you from all sorts of things, because if you're getting swarmed, you get a bunch of these, like, I think they're stalkers or whatever, like the smaller versions of them. You get a bunch of them jumping at you to try to ambush you, and if they jump at the wrong time and attack you, you'll be slowed enough to just be overwhelmed. This thing won't let that happen. It will kill those guys before they even reach you, right? It's like having a friend in prison who's like got a good reputation. So it's like that friend will squash a lot of the beef before it even gets to you, right? It's like, let's say someone wants to mess with you, they'll be like, nah, you don't do that. So this big guy just squashed that beef before you even learned about it. It's kind of similar with the a bit of a weird metaphor, but you get the idea. This thing is such a clown item. It's a complete clown item. You have to be a clown to use it because the secondaries in this game just suck. Okay, you can use it with SMGs, I think, but it's so weird, dog. Not good against bugs. It's not the worst against automatons, but the automatons have rocket launchers, and this thing doesn't make you mobile enough to avoid them. So just don't even use this unless you're going for that mission achievement where if you complete a mission with just secondaries, you get an achievement. But aside from that, I wouldn't even touch this thing with a 10-foot pole. The shield generator backpack. This is one of those things that it doesn't seem necessary at the lower difficulties, but at the higher ones, it is mandatory. Because the robots, the automaton missions, they will just one-shot you straight up. Okay? They don't do a bit of damage to warn you. They just straight up, bam, cap you instantly the second you get hit. Maybe a turret, an artillery, a tank you didn't see coming, some barrage of rockets. This thing will eat that damage up, and it will also act as a warning, because if you're getting one-shot by something you don't see, you're just dead. But if you see it, like the shield go down to a rocket or something coming from a certain direction, you'll not have time to actually maneuver and stay in cover so that the second shot doesn't get you, okay? This thing is so, like, vital in some of the harder automaton missions, and really it's just too necessary to just not take, because, again, if you're one of the guys who's, like, not staying at a range, you're gonna get blasted all the time. The robotics. I love this setup, this category, because I love sentries. They're like my little buddies who have my back. So the machine gun sentry is it's just trash. Don't take it. Take the Gatling Sentry. This thing is great. It's fast. It gets down quickly. It deals more damage than the machine gun sentry. It invalidates it, right? It's a great way to just give you some breathing room. Let's say you're fighting like a nest, and you just got flanked from behind by a patrol who now called in like a bug spawn or like a bot drop or something. You can put this thing down to just watch your back as you deal with the guys up front, okay? It is amazing. It's great on kill the whatever is within their numbers types missions, and I have nothing but good things to say about it. The Mortar Sentry. This thing is, in my opinion, the best mortar at getting kills, because it can go through walls, right? So it's like you can set it up in like a very well guarded area, and this will mean that it won't be target to like the enemy fire, but it will actually be able to get to them and shoot them over the wall. And this thing shoots in packs of 3, like in that it shoots 3 mortars at a time, and those things will definitely just kill whatever they go for, right? They're really, really powerful. However, this thing will destroy your teammates, and you can't even do anything about it. Even if they try to not play near the enemies, it will kill them, because the targeting on it is really bad. Because it shoots 3 strikes, it shoots them in a wide radius. So let's say that you have an enemy right here, right? Like right in front of you. So that's like what's considered the edge of close range, right? The mortar might randomly just hit you, nail you with a mortar, and instantly kill you, right? It is such a big teammate killer in bug missions, you have no idea. Okay, it's good in kill the terminals to thin their numbers, because it can kill them as they spawn, but if those bugs get close, your teammates are getting blown up. So if you're running solo, or if your teammates are very careful and they know what they're doing, it's a good thing to have. It's a great sentry, right? But if you're playing with maybe some inexperienced teammates, or maybe you're playing at a higher difficulty bug mission, this thing can kill your teammates. But I'm not saying it's bad, okay? It's really good. It's the most destructive sentry. It's just, like, have that caveat in mind when using this. You will kill at least one teammate with this. The guard dog with the Liberator is worse than the Rover. It's just, it does more damage, right? But it runs out of ammo, right? Whereas this thing never runs out. So You might as well go for the one that's always got your back to the one that's sometimes got your back. The Autocannon Sentry is my favorite sentry because this thing can kill anything. But, and it's a big but, it needs help. It's not like a Gatling Sentry where you can just toss it down and it will take care of itself. No. The autocannon has a very slow turning speed. So let's say if you toss it in front of the charger or around it, the charger will immediately drop aggro on you and just charge straight towards that sentry and kill it in one hit. Okay? Bugs destroy this thing very quickly. However, if you throw it at a distance long enough and dance around with a charger on your own, this thing will eventually lock on and it will just shred that charger and it will shred anything. This one, it will kill even the most toughest enemies to destroy. I've killed like a Bile Titan with this, or I've killed Bile Titans with this more often than I can. Okay, I'm not like going around with like 100 Bile Titan kill record, but I'd say most of the Bile Titans I've killed when I didn't have the Railcannon were because of this baby, because it's effective against them too, right? With the Railcannon, you can kill a Bile Titan in like 5-10 seconds if you set this up correctly at like its max range, right? It is amazing. If you can give it the setup it needs, if you can protect it, if you can throw it in a position where it has time to turn, this will be devastating, okay? It is really good and I really love it. The Rocket Sentry sucks. Okay, so to explain why this thing sucks, I have to explain to you how the targeting of the sentries work in this game. So the sentries will essentially pick a target to lock onto, and they will shoot that target until it's dead before switching to the next target. Now, it doesn't matter if that target runs back, runs left, right, up, down, does, cartwheels out of the area. It will lock onto that specific target until it can no longer fire at it, which means that it's dead, right? For most of the other sentries, because they kill quickly, or they kind of stun their enemies when they shoot at them so they can just get more shots off and kill them, you don't notice this targeting flaw. But you definitely notice it with the Rocket Sentry, because the rockets are projectiles, and let's say that a robot gets behind a rock or something, or in an awkward position, and then just starts shooting you from there. That means that this thing will just straight up just lob rockets at it over and over again, shooting the rock in front of it, shooting the ground, anything except the target, until it runs out of rockets. It runs out of damage. It runs out of bullets really quickly. It will very often run into targeting issues, and I just straight up don't recommend it. Just get the autocannon and give it a bit of love, and it will take care of you way better than the Rocket Sentry. I feel like the autocannon is really good at lower levels too, because if you can run around and grab aggro long enough and then just cover this, it will take care of the tougher opponents for you. Whereas this, not so much. The EMS Mortar Sentry. This thing is kind of good against the bugs, but it is excellent against the automatons. Now, you remember the EMS thing I talked about, right? It slows them in place, then you get shots off. This thing is that, but on steroids. It will but stun basically all automatons near you without even being like, you don't need to put them in like a field of view. You can just toss it anywhere where it has access to the roof, and it will just stun the automatons for you, right? Because it's a stun, it's not a kill. So if your teammates get caught in it, they're slowed down, but they can only just dive out of it, right? And in return, all the automatons near that teammate are just like stunned, so they can get away and also turn around and get their precision shots off them to just kill them one by one. I think this is a criminally underused stratagem, right? But on the other hand, it's like, it doesn't kill enemies, so I know why people will use it, but it's very underused, and it can be a lifesaver. So that is my explanation of all the stratagems in Helldivers 2. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know if you guys want more guides, because I've been grinding this game and collecting a ton of information about it. I want to make videos about the primary weapons, the support weapons, how to deal with every single bug, automaton, you name it. So if you guys want a really nice detailed guide about this game on any topic, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you boys in the next Helldivers video. Peace.